Sam is very in touch with their own queer identity. They're non-binary, and their best friend, TJ, is non-binary too. Sam's family is very cool with it, as long as Sam remembers that non-binary kids are also required to clean their rooms, do their homework, and try not to argue with their teachers too much. The not arguing thing is hard when it comes to Sam's history class because their teacher seems to believe that only dead, straight, cisgender white men are responsible for history. When Sam's home bureau of Staten Island opens up a contest for a new statue of a worthy historical figure, Sam finds the perfect subject: photographer Alice Austen, who lived with a female partner for decades and whose house has been turned into a nearby museum. Soon, Sam's project isn't just about winning the contest, it's about discovering the rich queer history that Sam and TJ are a part of. A queer history that no longer needs to be quiet as long as there are kids like Sam and TJ to stand up for it. Here is a preview of Alice Austen Lived Here by Gino. I can see the Statue of Liberty from my bedroom window. I'm not trying to brag, it's just true. My view is of New York Bay, with New Jersey sprawled out on the left side, downtown Manhattan poking up into the sky on the right, and between them, there she is, Lady Liberty. She's not close enough to be able to see her face clearly without binoculars, but she's an unmistakable green spot in the water. She has 7 spikes on her crown, I told TJ, as we lay on my bed one afternoon, leaning our elbows on the windowsill. Some people say it's to match the 7 continents or the 7 seas. Other people say it's supposed to be the rays of the sun, but then why would there be 7 of them? And she's in the water. It's gotta be the seas. TJ looked at me with one eyebrow raised and one lowered. Since when are you an expert on the Statue of Liberty? Since I watched a video online with Jess. TJ's dark hair fell onto their forehead in perfect ringlets that barely reached their thick-framed glasses. They wore black jeans and a magenta button-down shirt that brought out the rosy hint of their angular tan face. As for me, I wore one of my many black t-shirts that Mom said washed out my round, pale face. My dirty blonde, turning to brown hair was cut shorter than I would have liked, the effects of an unpleasant gender experiment that I was still waiting to grow out. My shirt was from Joe and Pat's, hands down the best pizza place on Staten Island. According to my hands, anyway, TJ's family swore by Nunzios. We lived on Staten Island, the forgotten borough of New York City. Staten Island is nearly the size of Brooklyn, but with 1/5 the population. Home of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, the minor league Yankees, and, of course, the Staten Island Ferry. In other words, a place known for ways to leave it. And if you've ever seen a map of New York where there's a little bump in the bottom left corner that the map maker didn't bother drawing the rest of, just enough to let the ferry dock before it heads back to Manhattan, that's the little bit of Staten Island we lived on. Okay, if you know everything about the Statue of Liberty, which hand is the book in? TJ asked. Easy, her left. Are you sure? 100%. But how can you know? Because she's holding the torch with her right. You're good. Most people get tripped up when you ask them about details like that. I'll bet my dad doesn't even know. TJ's dad was a trivia buff as well as a professional chef. Yeah, well, your dad doesn't have a personal view. TJ's family lived in a house a block away, and their bedroom view was of their backyard, a patchy green square with a large oak tree filling up the center. My building was 5 stories tall, plus a basement. So, technically, we lived in a penthouse. But really, it was just a regular 2-bedroom apartment in an old brick building. 141 St. Mark's Place, apartment 5C. I hadn't been able to say my address without it sing-songing out of my mouth ever since I was little and had to memorize it along with Mom's cell phone number, just in case I got lost. 141 St. Mark's Place, apartment 5C. I told TJ more of what I'd learned. There are 354 steps up to the top. Well, to her crown, anyway. No one's been allowed to climb up to the top of the torch since she got hit with shrapnel from an explosion around World War I. Why do you keep calling them she, anyway? How do you know what pronouns a statue uses? TJ is the only person I know who's more careful about pronouns than I am. Well, she is called Lady Liberty, I pointed out. Not all ladies are women. True, they could be a non-binary drag queen. They are wearing a tiara after all. Now that would be amazing. TJ stood and put my baseball hat on their head with the bill popped up. They grabbed a unicorn coloring book to hold in their left arm and raised a pencil in their right. No puny gender can hold me back. I am no mere man or woman. I am mixed liberty, and I light the way for you. TJ and I were the only non-binary kids in our grade, at least as far as we knew. That's not why we were best friends, and being best friends wasn't why we were both envy, no matter what TJ's grandmother thought. It was just one of many things we had in common. We both lived on the same street, loved graphic novels, and thought the pop star Miss Chris was the coolest ever. We always had something to talk about, and when we didn't, our silence was the comfortable kind. We loved to make boxed mac and cheese together, gluten-free because TJ was allergic to wheat, and eat it with tiny fish forks in candlelight, pretending it was the fanciest item on the menu at the cheapiest French restaurant. We were even both born in October, and the previous year we'd had a combination Halloween birthday party in TJ's backyard. My phone barked. Technically, it was the alarm set to a barking ringtone, but either way, it was dog walking time. The pug, Nacious, lived downstairs with Ms. Hanson, an old woman with short white hair and a friendly laugh. Ms. Hanson gave Nacious her daily walks, but TJ and I were responsible for taking her out on Sundays to really tire her out. Ready? I asked TJ, who jumped up in response. They liked Nacious even more than I did. TJ loved all dogs, even the big and growly ones. They said it was all in the eyes. I said I was a cat person, but I made exceptions, especially for dogs like Nacious, who weren't very dog-like at all. We raced down the stairs to Ms. Hanson's first-floor apartment. Ms. Hanson didn't have a view of the Statue of Liberty, since her windows were too close to the ground to see the water. All she could see was the back of the building behind us. Ms. Hanson met us at the door with Nacious already on her leash. We grabbed some tennis balls and set out down the block for the yard next to the stone church with its hill that we made Nacious run up and down as we tossed the tennis ball at each other. Neither of us had very good aim, but luckily Nacius liked to run after the ball and bring it back to TJ for tug of war. She knew not to bring it to me. Maybe she was happy, or maybe she was frustrated. It was hard to say. Like I said, I wasn't really a dog person. We walked back to 141 St. Mark's Place with Nacius. I knew every crack in the walkway to the entrance, the musty smell of the mailbox area in the outer lobby, and the number of stairs between each floor. I thought I knew a lot about the place, but I had no idea there was history to be discovered. And not just any history, queer history. And this has been a preview of Alice Austen Lived Here.